In the annals of human thought, there exist texts whose power not only transforms consciousness but also evokes so profound a resonance that it at times calls into question the very foundations of the habitual world order. One such text is The Master Key System by Charles Francis Haanel, published in 1912. This book, translated into more than 30 languages, has influenced such titans as Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, and even Oprah Winfrey, shaping entire generations of thinkers and entrepreneurs. However, its path was not without shadows. In 1933, at the height of the Great Depression, when millions sought answers in the chaos of economic collapse, the printings of this book were withdrawn from circulation. The reasons for this step remain a subject of discussion to this day. Some spoke of its excessive power, capable of undermining established foundations, while others spoke of the authorities' reluctance to see a population capable of independently governing its own reality. The paradox lies in the fact that the book, which promised every reader the keys to unlimited potential, itself became the object of an attempt at limitation. This story is not merely a curious fact, it is a silent testament to how deeply and fundamentally Haanel's ideas touch the very essence of human existence and its ability to influence the surrounding world. Charles Francis Haanel entered this world on the 22nd of May, 1866 in St. Louis, Missouri. His childhood and youth were spent in this dynamically developing city, which in those years was one of the most important industrial and commercial centers of America. From an early age, Charles displayed extraordinary abilities for organization and entrepreneurship. He was not a typical academic, preferring a direct immersion into the world of business and commerce. His education was formed not so much in university lecture halls as in real practice, at the junction of logic, psychology, and economic strategy. Haanel quickly grasped the principles driving success in commercial activity. By the beginning of the 20th century, he was already an influential figure in business circles, having founded and headed several successful companies, among which the Continental Commercial Company stood out. Under his leadership, this corporation transformed into a veritable business empire, spanning a wide spectrum of industries. Haanel was known for his innovative approach to management, his ability to see opportunities where others saw only obstacles, and, most importantly, his skill in motivating people to achieve outstanding results. He did not merely build enterprises, he built systems that operated with astonishing efficiency. However, his interests were not limited exclusively to material success. Deep within, Haanel sought to understand the fundamental laws governing not only business, but life itself. He studied philosophy, metaphysics, psychology, and ancient teachings, attempting to find a common denominator between the inner world of man and his external achievements. It was this striving for synthesis that led him to the creation of the Master Key System. In 1912, the Master Key System first saw the light of day not as a book but as a weekly 24-week course sent by mail. This format allowed readers to assimilate the material gradually, applying the knowledge gained in practice and observing the changes in their lives. Haanel's target audience consisted not of dreamers or idle minds, but of serious men, industrialists, entrepreneurs, executives, those who had already achieved certain successes but strove for more, who understood that deeper principles lay hidden behind visible reality. His clients were men of action, and Haanel offered them not esoteric abstractions, but a clear, structured methodology for achieving concrete, measurable results. He taught them how to use the power of their minds to create a desired reality, how to transform thought into material embodiment. This system was a practical guide to life, based on a profound understanding of universal laws, and it was precisely this pragmatic approach that ensured its instant success and devoted audience. The 24th and final lesson of the Master Key System is not merely a concluding chapter, it is the culmination of the entire journey, a grand synthesis of all 23 previous lessons gathered by Haanel into a single, all-encompassing formula. He presents it as an alchemical process, as the art of turning thought into matter. This is not a metaphor in the usual sense of the word, but a precise description of the mechanism by which the internal becomes external, and the invisible becomes visible. Haanel leads us to the central truth, to the cornerstone of his entire philosophy. You may have what you will, if you will give what you will. This phrase, paradoxical at first glance, carries within it the deepest wisdom. It overturns the habitual notion of getting and giving. placing giving in the first position as a necessary condition for receiving. This is not merely charity or altruism. It is the universal law of resonance, the law of conservation of energy in a metaphysical sense. To attract abundance, one must radiate abundance. To receive love, one must radiate love. To find success, one must be of service. This is an active, creative process, not a passive waiting. He speaks of turning the gold of the mind into the gold of the heart and the gold in the hands. This figurative formula encompasses 3 levels of being. The gold of the mind is pure thought, an idea, an intention not yet clothed in form, but already possessing potential. This is the mental plane where all designs are born. Then, this gold of the mind must pass through the gold of the heart, through the emotional center. This means that the thought must be filled with feeling, passion, faith, and sincere desire. Without emotional energy, thought remains cold and powerless. The heart is the alchemical furnace where an abstract idea acquires vital force. And only then, having passed through the mind and the heart, does this transformed energy materialize into gold in the hands, into concrete results, into visible manifestations in the physical world. This is the completion of the alchemical process, when potential becomes reality. Haanel does not weary of repeating, "We live in a beautiful world. Open your eyes and you will see the truth." He calls us not to blind optimism, but to a conscious perception of the abundance and opportunities that surround us every second. The truth of which he speaks is not some esoteric secret, but a fundamental principle governing reality, which becomes evident as soon as one changes the angle of vision. He says that the world is not hostile nor indifferent, but responsive to our inner state and our intentions. If we see the world as a source of problems, it will be so. If we see it as a source of opportunity and beauty, it will reveal itself to us from that side. The final exercise offered by Haanel is not a one-time action, but a constant practice, a way of life. To see life every day as an unfinished masterpiece in which you are the co-author. This thought is incredibly profound. It removes from us the role of passive observers or victims of circumstances and bestows upon us the responsibility and privilege of creators. We do not merely live in the world, we actively participate in its creation, in its formation. Every decision of ours, every thought, every action is a brushstroke on the canvas of our life, part of a grand work that is constantly being written. This approach requires awareness, intention, and faith in one's own creative potential. Haanel's ideas, formulated more than a century ago, resonate in a striking manner with ancient teachings and find confirmation in the most advanced scientific concepts of our time. One of the oldest parallels is the alchemical opus magnum, the great work, the process of turning base metal into gold, which was always not only chemical but also a deeply spiritual, metaphorical path of transforming consciousness. Alchemists identified 4 main stages of this process: negrito, albedo, citrinitas, and rubedo. The stage of negrito, or blackness, symbolizes the original, undifferentiated matter, chaos, darkness, decay, and purification. In the context of thought, this may be the initial, often unconscious desire which is not yet shaped, not yet purified of doubts, fears, and contradictions. This is the stage when we encounter our inner limitations, our shadow aspects, when old beliefs and attitudes are destroyed to make room for the new. This is a necessary stage of deconstruction, without which true creation is impossible. Then follows albedo, whiteness, the stage of purification, enlightenment, and washing. Here, matter is purified, becoming finer and lighter. In the mental plane, this means the clarification of intention, the elimination of inner conflicts, and the formulation of a clear, positive goal. This is the stage when we begin to see the true nature of our desire, freeing it from the impurities of selfish or negative motivations. It is a process of realization and acceptance that leads to inner harmony and clarity. After albedo comes citrinitas, yellowness, the stage of illumination, of gilding, when the purified matter begins to acquire the qualities of gold. This is the moment of intuitive insight, when the thought, purified and filled with feeling, takes form, when the understanding comes of exactly how the desired can be embodied. This is the stage of active visualization and planning, when the inner world begins to actively shape the outer. Here, the creative spark manifests, linking the inner vision with the outer action. And finally, rubedo, redness, the final stage, symbolizing the completion of the great work, the union of opposites, the achievement of perfection, the creation of the philosopher's stone, or, in our case, the materialization of the desire. This is the red gold, the symbol of full transformation and embodiment. In Haanel's context, this is the very stage when the gold of the mind, having passed through the gold of the heart, turns into gold in the hands. This is the moment when thought becomes a tangible reality, when the inner intention manifests in the outer world. This entire alchemical process is a path from unformed desire to its full and perfect embodiment, a path that Haanel describes through his system. Another ancient parallel is the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, a cornerstone text of Hermetic philosophy, which contains the famous phrase, "That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below," to accomplish the miracles of one thing. This principle of as above so below, or as within so without, is fundamental to understanding the connection between the mental world and physical reality. It asserts that the macrocosm, the universe, and the microcosm, man, his mind, reflect each other. Our thoughts, beliefs, and inner state do not simply exist by themselves. They are a reflection and simultaneously a forming force for external reality. If our inner world is full of chaos, then the outer world will seem chaotic. If our inner world is orderly and filled with clear intentions, then the outer reality will begin to reflect this order. Haanel, in essence, teaches us how to work consciously with this principle to create the desired miracles of one thing in our lives. The great German poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, in the finale of his grand drama Faust II, completed in 1832, a few months before his death, uttered words that resonate deeply with Haanel's ideas. Alles Vergängliche ist nur ein Gleichnis. All that is transitory is but a symbol. This phrase indicates that the material, changing world which we perceive with our senses is not the ultimate reality. It is but a reflection, a symbol, a likeness of deeper, invisible yet fundamental truths and principles. For Haanel, this means that the physical reality we see and touch is only the external manifestation of internal mental and emotional states. Our thoughts and beliefs are the primary foundation, and the material world is their reflection, their likeness. If we wish to change the likeness, we must change that which it reflects, that is, our inner world. This is a profound philosophical statement that shifts the focus of attention from the external form to the internal essence, from the material to the mental. In the Eastern tradition, we find similar ideas in Tantric philosophy, particularly in the concept of Mahamudra, the Great Seal. Mahamudra teaches the unity of emptiness, shunyata, and form, rupa. Emptiness here does not mean non-existence, but rather the absence of independent, self-existent existence of things. Form, or manifested reality, arises from this emptiness and is inseparably linked with it. This means that the world of phenomena is not something separate from our consciousness. It arises in the moment of interaction, in the moment of observation. Reality does not exist as something solid and independent. It is fluid and malleable, shaped by consciousness. This directly echoes Haanel's ideas that our thoughts shape our reality. If reality is a unity of emptiness and form, then our thoughts are the mechanism that gives form to the emptiness, which turns potential into manifestation. These ancient teachings, from alchemy to tantric philosophy, have for millennia pointed to the same fundamental truth. Consciousness is primary, and matter is secondary, and it is in this interaction that the greatest power of man is hidden. Moving from metaphysical heights and ancient revelations to the rigor of modern laboratory research, you will find that 21st century science is beginning to speak in the language that Charles Haanel used more than a century ago. What in 1912 seemed a bold hypothesis or a mystical insight today acquires flesh in the form of graphs, neural maps, and molecular chains. We enter a realm where the boundary between the observer and the observed is blurred, confirming the main thesis of the 24th lesson. Your inner world is not merely a reflection of reality, but its architect. Consider the phenomenon of neuroplasticity, which has radically changed our understanding of human potential. For a long time, the belief prevailed in scientific circles that the adult human brain was static and unchangeable. However, in 2007, Dr. Norman Doidge, in his work The Brain That Changes Itself, presented irrefutable evidence that our thoughts are capable of physically restructuring the gray matter, Haanel asserted that every thought creates new connections, and science has confirmed this with striking precision. Recall the famous study by Eleanor Maguire, conducted in the year 2000 at University College London. She studied the brains of London taxi drivers who needed to memorize a most complex map of the city, including 25,000 streets and thousands of landmarks. The results of magnetic resonance imaging showed that the posterior part of the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for spatial memory, was significantly larger in taxi drivers than in average people. Moreover, the volume of this region increased proportionally to the time spent behind the wheel. This means that purposeful mental activity literally grows new brain tissue. You do not merely use your mind, you physically create its configuration with every thought of yours, confirming Haanel's words that the mind is the only creative force. Even deeper layers of interaction between thought and matter are revealed by epigenetics. Bruce Lipton, an outstanding biologist and researcher, proved that we are not hostages to our genetic code. In his works, he demonstrates that signals from the environment, interpreted by our consciousness, are capable of switching certain genes on and off. This means that your beliefs and expectations are chemical signals that dictate to cells how they should function. A striking experiment by Brian Diaz and Kerry Ressler, conducted in 2014, showed how fear and perception are transmitted through generations. Mice were trained to fear the smell of cherry blossoms, accompanying it with an electric shock. Subsequently, their descendants, who had never encountered this smell or been subjected to the shock, showed signs of extreme stress at the appearance of the cherry blossom aroma. This proves that the mental experience of ancestors leaves a biological trace in the DNA. If negative experience is capable of changing biology for generations to come, then the conscious creative thinking of which the Master Key system speaks possesses the power to heal and transform the very foundation of your biological existence. The interconnection between mind and body finds its confirmation in psychoneuroimmunology as well. Candace Pert, in her landmark 1997 book Molecules of Emotion, described how neuropeptides, chemical carriers of thoughts and feelings, permeate every cell of our organism. Your immune cells literally listen to your thoughts. Research by Janice K. Koch-Glaser and Ronald Glaser showed that medical students during periods of examination stress demonstrate a sharp decline in the activity of natural killer cells, which protect the body from viruses and tumors. Their wounds healed 40% slower than during vacations. This is direct scientific proof that the mental state of destruction, against which Haanel warned, literally erodes the physical shell, while the harmonious thought of the 24th lesson is the elixir of life. One cannot ignore the phenomenon of the placebo, which Henry Beecher in 1955 estimated as effective in 30 to 60% of cases. When a patient takes a dummy, believing it to be powerful medicine, his brain begins to produce its own endorphins, dopamine, and other healing substances. The reality of the body changes not under the influence of a chemical substance, but under the influence of an idea. This is that very alchemy of thought of which Haanel speaks. Belief turns into biological fact. You see how modern science, step by step, confirms that the external world and the internal state are inseparable. If we turn our gaze to the deep past, we see that these truths were known to the initiates at the dawn of civilization. Hermes Trismegistus, the legendary founder of alchemy and Hermeticism, in his treatise Poimandres, described the universe as a mental creation. In the Emerald Tablet, a fundamental law was captured. That which is below is analogous to that which is above. For Haanel, this meant that the microcosm of the human mind is identical to the macrocosm of the universal mind. When you harmonize your thoughts with the laws of nature, you connect to an inexhaustible source of creative energy. This is not just philosophy, it is a technology of interaction with reality, which the ancients called the Great Work. The Buddha, in the first chapter of the Dhammapada, written more than 2,500 years ago, proclaimed, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts we make the world." This statement is the quintessence of the entire Master Key system. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness is nothing other than control over the mental images that Haanel calls us to hold in the focus of our attention. In the ancient Indian text Yoga Vasista, the world is described as chitta matra, consciousness only. There, a metaphor is provided that the world is like a dream of God, and man is the one who can wake up inside this dream and begin to consciously create its plot. In the tradition of the Kabbalah, the concept of Ein Sof, the infinite unmanifested light, describes the state of potentiality from which, through the process of emanation, the material world arises. The thought of man in this system is viewed as an instrument by which divine energy is directed into the vessels of material form. If your vessels, your beliefs, are limited or stained by fear, they cannot hold the light of abundance. Haanel teaches you to purify these mental vessels so that they may contain the gold of the spirit. The Stoics, such as Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, also pointed out that it is not events themselves that determine our lives, but our attitude toward them. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations wrote, "Your life is what your thoughts make it." They understood that the only sovereignty a human possesses is power over his inner world. The Zen patriarch Bodhidharma taught that truth lies outside of words and scriptures. It is in the direct contemplation of one's own nature. This contemplation is that final exercise of the 24th lesson, where you must see life as a completed masterpiece in which you are simultaneously the artist and the canvas. History has preserved for us the names of those who succeeded in applying these principles in practice, turning their lives into living proof of the efficacy of the master key system. One of the most prominent followers of Haanel's ideas was Earl Nightingale. In 1956, he recorded a short lecture titled "The Strangest Secret." This recording became the first audiobook in history to achieve gold record status, selling more than 1 million copies. The secret he spoke of was simple and majestic. We become what we think about most of the time. Nightingale, who grew up in poverty during the Great Depression, discovered Haanel's book and realized that his success depended not on external circumstances, but on an unshakable mental attitude. He taught that a person who has a goal and visualizes its achievement inevitably attracts the necessary resources, just as a magnet attracts iron filings. Napoleon Hill, the author of the bestseller Think and Grow Rich, was also under the deep influence of Haanel. In 1908, the young reporter Hill received an assignment to interview the wealthiest man on the planet, Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie proposed that Hill devote 20 years of his life to studying the formula for success, interviewing 500 of the richest and most influential people of that time. Carnegie knew of the principles set forth in the Master Key System and wanted them to become public property. Hill discovered that Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Alexander Graham Bell used the same technique. They created a detailed blueprint of the desired result in their imagination and held it until it was embodied in reality. Edison conducted thousands of unsuccessful experiments with the incandescent lamp, but in his consciousness it was already shining with a bright light. He did not suffer defeats, he simply found thousands of ways that did not work, remaining faithful to his inner vision. Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, possessed what contemporaries called a reality distortion field. This was the ability to convince himself and those around him that the impossible was possible. In his famous speech to Stanford graduates, he spoke of connecting the dots looking backward. Studying calligraphy in college, he did not know how it would be useful to him in the future. But years later, this knowledge allowed him to create the first computer with beautiful fonts, changing the entire industry. Jobs understood that intuition and the inner voice are instruments of connection with that very universal mind of which Haanel wrote. His life was a practical embodiment of alchemy. He turned abstract ideas into objects that changed the way people interact with the world. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential women of modern times, has repeatedly acknowledged that her success was made possible by an understanding of the laws of metaphysics set forth in such works. She often quotes the thought that you get from life not what you want but what you believe in. Her path from poverty in rural Mississippi to the status of billionaire and philanthropist is the path of a person who refused to accept a reality imposed from without and created her own, using the power of intentional thought. She embodied the principle of the 24th lesson: to give to life what you desire yourself, inspiration, hope, and light, and to receive it in return 100-fold. All these people, from ancient sages to modern titans of industry, followed the same route. They understood that we live in a participatory universe, as the physicist John Wheeler called it. Reality is not a frozen stage set. It is a living, responsive substance that awaits your command. The delayed choice experiment, proposed by Wheeler in 1978 and brilliantly confirmed by Alain Aspect in 2007, showed something incredible. Observation in the present moment is capable of changing the past state of a photon. If our consciousness possesses such power over elementary particles, then imagine what power it possesses over the trajectory of your life. The 24th lesson calls you to realize the responsibility for this power. This is not merely a technique for accumulating material goods, although they too come as a natural consequence. This is the process of turning the gold of the mind into the gold of the heart and the gold in the hands. Haanel reminds you that we live in a beautiful world, full of opportunities that remain invisible only until you open your eyes to the truth. This truth lies in the fact that between your thought and its material embodiment, there is no insurmountable abyss. There is only a process of crystallization that you are starting right now. The practice of this final stage requires you to live as if every thought of yours were to become tangible matter tomorrow. Imagine that your consciousness is a transmitter, operating without breaks or weekends. What broadcast are you sending into the ether of the universe? Is it a symphony of creation or the noise of fear and doubt? Haanel insists that the law of attraction and the law of growth operate inexorably, regardless of whether you are aware of them or not. But when you master the master key, you cease to be a chip in the ocean of circumstances and become the captain of your vessel. Recall the alchemical stages: Negredo, Albedo, Citronidus, and Rubedo. You have passed through the darkness of ignorance, purified your perception, gained illumination, and are now ready for the final union. Your inner self and outer reality merge in a single act of creation. This is Mahamudra, the great seal of unity. You no longer ask life for mercy, you enter into partnership with it. You are the co-author of this unfinished masterpiece that we call reality. And in this moment of interaction, in this act of conscious observation, you literally call the world into existence. Every day upon waking, you must see before you not merely a set of habitual things and duties, but a blank canvas, full of potential opportunities. Your task is to apply brushstrokes with your thoughts, confidently and boldly. Remember that, slower or faster, this is exactly how the formation of your destiny occurs. This is not magic in the common understanding. It is the highest form of natural law, which Haanel set forth with such clarity and solemnity. You hold in your hands the key that opens all doors. The only question that remains: are you ready to enter the door that you have chosen yourself? The world you see around you is only a likeness, a symbol of something much more majestic. And when you realize this, fear disappears, giving way to deep calm and confidence. You know that the source of all existence is within you. You know that your thought is a seed that will inevitably bear fruit if you nourish it with attention and faith. This is the great finale and simultaneously the great beginning of your journey as a conscious creator. The world you see around you is only a likeness, a symbol of something much more majestic. And when you realize this, fear disappears, giving way to deep calm and confidence. You know that the source of all existence is within you. You know that your thought is a seed that will inevitably bear fruit if you nourish it with attention and faith. This is the great finale and simultaneously the great beginning of your journey as a conscious creator. Since Charles Haanel published his Master Key in 1912, his ideas have become not merely the property of a narrow circle, but a powerful catalyst for entire generations of thinkers, entrepreneurs, and leaders. You can trace the echoes of his teaching in the most unexpected corners of modern culture and science. Napoleon Hill, the author of the immortal Think and Grow Rich, publicly acknowledged that it was the master key that inspired him to create the philosophy of success that changed the lives of millions. Earl Nightingale, the legendary radio host and motivational speaker whose recording The Strangest Secret became the gold standard in the field of personal growth, also drew his inspiration from Haanel's works, translating his deep truths into a language accessible to everyone. Even Oprah Winfrey, the media mogul and one of the most influential women in the world, has repeatedly mentioned the power of thought and visualization, principles that lie at the foundation of Haanel's teaching and were popularized through such phenomena as the book and film The Secret, which, in turn, owe their existence precisely to the Master Key. These principles are not limited merely to the sphere of self-help. Modern psychology, despite its scientific rigor, offers striking parallels to Haanel's ideas. Carl Gustav Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, spoke of individuation, the process by which a person integrates his conscious and unconscious, achieving wholeness. Is this not the same alchemy of which Haanel spoke? the turning of the gold of the mind into the gold of the heart, when the inner world of man comes into harmony with the outer. Jung also introduced the concept of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that have no causal link but carry deep meaning for the observer, as if the outer world responds to inner states. Abraham Maslow, one of the fathers of humanistic psychology, described peak experiences, moments of deepest joy, delight, and realization when a person feels fully integrated and connected with the universe, achieving self-actualization. In these moments, as in Haanel's teaching, the inner and outer merge, creating a sense of boundless possibilities. Even cognitive psychology, represented by such names as Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, in his work on systems of thought, System 1 fast, intuitive, and System 2 slow, analytical, involuntarily confirms Haanel's relevance. The Master Key system teaches us to consciously engage System 2 to reprogram the deep-seated beliefs of System 1, forming new mental patterns that then automatically influence our perception and actions. And the concept of flow, developed by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, describes a state of full immersion in an activity where time loses its meaning and a person feels at the peak of their capabilities, optimally using their skills and concentration. This state, where inner intention and outer action merge into a single whole, is a direct reflection of what Haanel calls for: the conscious management of one's attention and energy. In the world of sports, great athletes intuitively apply these principles. Michael Jordan, whose name became synonymous with greatness in basketball, did not merely train his body, he trained his mind. His ability to get in the zone, to visualize winning shots, to maintain an unshakable faith in himself even in the most critical situations. This is a direct application of the mental techniques described by Haanel. Kobe Bryant, with his famous Mamba mentality, was the embodiment of the idea that success begins in the head. His obsession with detail, tireless visualization, constant striving for perfection, and faith in his ability to overcome any obstacle. All these are manifestations of how thought, backed by action, turns into matter, into the gold of awards and recognition. In the sphere of business, these ideas manifest with even greater clarity. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, built his empire on an unshakable faith in a long-term vision and the day one principle, constantly acting as if the company were just beginning its journey, maintaining flexibility and innovativeness. Elon Musk, whose ambitions extend from electric vehicles to the colonization of Mars, is a living example of how a daring, seemingly impossible thought, backed by titanic labor and faith, can change the world. His ability to hold grandiose goals in his consciousness and consistently work toward their realization is the mastery that Haanel described 100 years ago. Even Warren Buffett, the legendary investor whose philosophy is based on patience, deep analysis, and long-term vision, demonstrates how a steady mental state and disciplined thinking lead to outstanding material results. We can recall Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Henry Ford, all these titans of industry whose ability to see the future and embody it in life was the driving force of their success. Steve Jobs, with his reality distortion field, literally forced those around him to believe in his vision, materializing innovations that changed the world. Modern neurobiology also leads us to astonishing discoveries confirming the power of thought. Norman Doidge, in his book The Brain That Changes Itself, 2007, convincingly showed the phenomenon of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to restructure itself and form new neural connections in response to our experience, thoughts, and learning. This means that our thoughts literally change the physical structure of our brain, confirming that we are not merely passive observers but active architects of our inner reality. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in the field of epigenetics, demonstrates that our beliefs and environment can influence the expression of our genes, proving that we are not victims of our genetic code, but rather co-authors of our biological destiny. And of course, quantum physics, with its striking discoveries such as Alain Aspect's experiment in 1982, which confirmed quantum entanglement, points to the deep interconnection of all reality, where particles instantaneously influence each other regardless of distance. This creates a scientific basis for understanding how our consciousness, our observation, can be inseparably linked with the formation of reality itself. However, like any powerful instrument, the master key requires responsible and conscious application. There are dangers that may lie in wait on the path to mastering this philosophy if it is understood incorrectly. One such danger is naive positivism, or so-called toxic positivity. This is the belief that one must always be positive, ignoring or suppressing negative emotions, problems, and challenges. Haanel never called for the denial of reality. He taught its transformation. Ignoring pain, fear, or anger does not make them non-existent. It only drives them deeper, creating inner conflict. True mastery consists not in denying the shadow but in integrating it. Understanding that every emotion carries within it information and energy that can be used for growth. Another trap is magical thinking. This is the belief that it is enough simply to wish for something, and it will materialize without any effort or action. Haanel was a pragmatist. He emphasized that thought is a seed, but a seed requires soil, water, and light. That is, action, discipline, and persistence. Without the application of effort, without concrete steps toward the goal, thought remains merely a barren fantasy. The master key is not a passive waiting for a miracle. It is active creation. Denial of reality is another serious error. This is the refusal to acknowledge external circumstances, difficulties, or feedback, believing that everything can be changed by thought alone. This can lead to catastrophic consequences, from incorrect business decisions to the neglect of one's own health. Haanel's principle lies not in ignoring reality, but in its conscious formation and adaptation to it, using inner resources to overcome outer barriers. The world we see is real, but it is malleable to the influence of our consciousness. Toxic spirituality, or spiritual bypassing, also presents a threat. This is the use of spiritual or metaphysical concepts to avoid dealing with emotional problems, psychological traumas, or practical responsibilities. For example, attributing all failures exclusively to negative thoughts can be a form of victim blaming, where a person blames themselves or others for misfortunes without considering complex systemic factors. Haanel's true teaching calls for personal responsibility, but not for self-flagellation for events that are outside of our direct control. It teaches us to focus on what we can change, our inner state and our actions. Finally, there exists the danger of using this principle for selfish, destructive, or unethical purposes. Although Haanel did not always explicitly prescribe ethical frameworks, his works are permeated with an understanding of the universal laws of harmony and balance. True mastery, in his view, must always serve the higher good. Otherwise, it will inevitably lead to disharmony and destruction. The turning of the gold of the mind into gold in the hands must be balanced by the gold of the heart. That is, by compassion, wisdom, and ethical responsibility. So, how does one apply this final 24th lesson of the Master Key in one's daily life? Avoiding the traps and revealing its full potential. We offer you a 30-day program consisting of 7 key practices. Each of them is aimed at integrating Haanel's principles into your consciousness and subconscious mind, transforming you from a passive observer into an active co-author of your reality. Asterisk, asterisk. Practice 1. The silence and meditation. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. What to do? Every morning, immediately after waking or in the evening before sleep, find a quiet, secluded place where no one will disturb you. Sit in a comfortable position with a straight back, but without tension. Close your eyes. Focus on your breath, feeling the air enter and leave your body. Allow thoughts to come and go without clinging to them, without analyzing or judging them. Simply observe them like clouds floating across the sky. The goal of this practice is to quiet the mind, reduce inner noise, and establish a connection with your inner source of silence and clarity. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day? 10 to 15 minutes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? The first sensations of deep calm, clarity of mind, and a reduction in stress levels may appear within 3 to 5 days. Deeper changes in the perception of the world, increased awareness, and the ability to govern your emotions will manifest after 2 to 3 weeks of regular practice. Asterisk, asterisk. Practice 2. Detailed visualization. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. What to do? Choose one concrete, significant goal or desired state for yourself, daily, in a quiet setting with eyes closed. Imagine that this goal has already been fully achieved. Visualize it as vividly, detailed, and realistically as possible. What do you see around you? What sounds do you hear? What scents do you perceive? What tactile sensations do you experience? Most importantly, feel the emotions you would experience if this were already your reality. Joy, satisfaction, confidence, gratitude. Immerse yourself in this feeling of fullness and completion. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day? 5 to 10 minutes, twice a day, in the morning, after meditation, and in the evening, before sleep. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? Small but noticeable coincidences, the appearance of new opportunities, and an increase in inner confidence may manifest within a week. More substantial changes in circumstances and progress toward the goal will become evident in 3 to 4 weeks. Asterisk, asterisk. Practice 3. Powerful affirmations. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. What to do? Formulate 1 or 2 positive statements concerning your goal or desired state, always in the present tense and in an affirmative form. For example, I easily and confidently achieve my goals, attracting to myself all necessary resources and opportunities. Or, my mind is full of clarity, creative ideas, and unshakable faith in myself. Repeat these affirmations aloud or to yourself, with focus and deep feeling, several times a day, especially in the morning, during the day, and before sleep. It is important not just to utter words, but to sincerely believe in what you are saying and to feel it as an already accomplished fact. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day? 2 to 3 minutes per session. Repeat 3 to 5 times a day. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? An improvement in mood, self-esteem, and the appearance of a sense of inner strength may be noticed within a few days. A deeper change in inner beliefs and the appearance of new, favorable opportunities in 2 to 4 weeks. Asterisk, asterisk. Practice 4. Mindfulness and gratitude journal. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. What to do? Daily, set aside time to write down your thoughts, feelings, ideas, as well as observations of how your thoughts influence your experiences and the events of the day. Note the moments when you felt strong, inspired, or, conversely, when you yielded to doubt. In a separate part of the journal, every day write down 5 to 10 things for which you are sincerely grateful. These can be major events or the simplest trifles: a sunny day, a delicious coffee, the smile of a stranger, your health, a roof over your head. The goal is not only to track your thought patterns, but also to actively focus attention on the abundance and positive aspects of your life, creating a powerful field of attraction. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day? 10 to 15 minutes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? Increased self-awareness, a better understanding of your thought patterns, and an improvement in general mood. Within a week, a noticeable change in the ability to govern your thoughts, an increase in the sense of satisfaction, and the attraction of positive events. In 3 to 4 weeks. Asterisk, asterisk. Practice 5. Mental rehearsal. Asterisk, 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 what to do before any important event, meeting, performance, difficult task, or even an ordinary day that you want to live as productively as possible. Mentally play through the entire process in your head. Imagine yourself performing the task confidently, calmly, successfully, and achieving the desired result. Feel every action, every word, every emotion, every favorable outcome. This is not merely passive visualization, but an active, full immersion in the future experience, as if you are already living it in the present. This helps the brain prepare for success and creates neural pathways for the desired behavior. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day? 5 to 10 minutes before every important event or task. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? An immediate increase in confidence, a reduction in anxiety, and an improvement in focus before the event. A noticeable improvement in actual performance and results after several such mental rehearsals. Asterisk, asterisk, practice 6. Focus switching crossed ray and end sesh, recoding thoughts. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. What to do? During the day, as soon as you catch yourself in a negative thought, doubt, fear, or sense of limitation, immediately realize it. Take a deep breath in and out to break the pattern. Then, consciously and resolutely switch your attention to the opposite, positive thought, or to the desired outcome. For example, if you think, I won't manage, this is too difficult, immediately replace it with, I am capable of finding a solution, I possess all the necessary resources to overcome this. If you feel fear, replace it with a sense of confidence or curiosity. Practice this like muscle memory, constantly training your mind to choose constructive thoughts. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day, as needed, throughout the day, every time a negative thought arises. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? An immediate improvement in mood and reduction in anxiety at the moment of switching. The ability to quickly exit negative states and more effectively manage your thoughts. In 1 to 2 weeks. Asterisk, asterisk. Practice 7. Conscious observation of reality. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. What to do during the day, especially during walks or interaction with the surrounding world. Practice conscious observation. Look at the world not as something given and unchangeable, but as an unfinished masterpiece. Notice the beauty, harmony, and opportunities that might have previously escaped your attention. Realize that every thought of yours, every intention of yours, makes its contribution to this masterpiece. Feel yourself to be a co-author, an active participant in the process of creation. Ask yourself the question, what reality do I want to see and create right now? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. How many minutes per day? 10 to 15 minutes of purposeful observation. But also try to maintain this state of awareness throughout the day. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. On which day to start feeling the effect? An increase in the sense of presence, inspiration, and connection with the surrounding world. Within a few days, a noticeable change in the perception of opportunities and an increase in the sense of personal power. In 2 to 3 weeks, these 7 practices, performed with discipline and faith, will become your personal master key. They will allow you not just to understand but to feel through your own experience how thought turns into matter. You will begin to see how your inner state literally shapes your outer reality, slower or faster. So in what does the great truth of the 24th and final lesson of the Master Key consist? It is simple, yet profound. Asterisk, asterisk, your thought is not merely an abstraction. It is a living energy that shapes your reality. You can receive from life what you desire only by giving to life what you desire. This is the alchemy of turning the gold of the mind into the gold of the heart and the gold in the hands. The story of the Master Key does not end here at the 24th lesson. It only begins with you, with your decision to take this key in your hands and open those doors that previously seemed locked. You stand on the threshold of a new world, a world where you are not merely a passenger, but the captain of your vessel, the sculptor of your destiny, the architect of your future. Imagine yourself as an artist standing before a vast blank canvas. You hold in your hands a palette with an infinite multitude of colors and a brush capable of applying any stroke. This canvas is your life, and every stroke is your thought, your intention, your action. You are free to create whatever you desire. Which colors will you choose? What picture will you create? What story will you tell? The world awaits your masterpiece. And this masterpiece begins right now, with the thought that you choose.